By the dawn of the 23rd century, Earth had endured centuries of scars, wars that had burned across continents, cities choked by dwindling resources, and the slow suffocation of a planet battered by its own children. From the ashes of chaos, a single banner rose: the Sovereign Colonies, a unified government forged out of desperation and necessity. Under its watch, humanity looked upward, not with curiosity, but with the hunger of survival. The stars became both a promise and a gamble. Bold pioneers, restless dreamers, and corporate magnates with deep coffers all set their sights on the untouched world beyond. But the void was not easily conquered without the miracle of shockpoint drives. Journeys between stars demanded fortunes and resources, fleets of colossal vessels, and the constant presence of the Sovereign Colonies' armed forces. Every mission was a risk, every colony a hard-won foothold in the vast dark. Yet still, humanity pushed outward, knowing that the future lay not on the earth that birthed them, but among the cold fires of distant suns. In the early years of the 24th century, cracks in the Sovereign Colonies' grand vision began to widen. The resource crisis that had driven humanity to the stars only deepened, and the so-called resource wars fought over the spoils of distant territories, bled across colonies and trade routes alike. To many, the Sovereign Colonies had become a bloated, distant authority, its gaze fixed on the heavens while Earth itself withered. It was in this climate that the Secession War was ignited, a bitter civil conflict that set the Sovereign Colonies' armed forces against the secessionists, a movement bent on tearing down the administration and replacing with an Earth-first regime. Battles raged on distant worlds and in orbit over ancient home soil, each victory or loss leaving scars on both sides. In 2311, the Sovereign Colonies gambled everything. In the cold silence of deep space, they launched a covert expedition to the frozen graveyard of Tau Volantis. The mission's goal was nothing less than salvation, to harness the boundless energy of the alien markers, artifacts that the government has secretly studied since the black marker's discovery on Earth nearly a century earlier. If succeeded, the Rhesus crisis would end, and with it, the war. Tau Volantis did not yield salvation, only disaster. 3 years later, in 2314, the Sovereign Colonies Council enacted Scenario 5, an uncompromising directive to erase the marker's program from existence. Every scrap of research, every witness, every operative, wiped away in fire and secrecy. The purges shattered what little stability remained. The Sovereign Colonies crumbled. The secessionists claimed victory, and from the wreckage, a new order rose: the Earth Government Colonial Alliance, known simply as EarthGov. Scenario 5 buried beneath layers of secrecy, and its evidence reduced to ash. The truth was left to speculation. In military circles, a simpler, if misleading narrative took hold: that the Sovereign Colonies' final act had been one of spiteful defiance, a scorched earth campaign meant to deny the secessionists their prize. To them, the vanished fleets and destroyed installations were not the echoes of a hidden disaster, but the calculated self-immolation of a regime determined to take its secrets to the grave. In the centuries that followed, EarthGov set its sights once more on the stars, determined to ease the growing strain on Earth's dwindling resources. The 24th and 25th centuries became an era of renewed expansion, measured, ambitious, and fueled by the lessons of past failures. Though shockpoint drive technology was still in its infancy, the boundaries of space began to loosen. Civil travel, once the sole privilege of the wealthy or desperate, became more attainable with the founding of the United Spacefaring Guild, an organization tasked with managing all non-governmental traffic between worlds. EarthGov's fleet still patrolled trade lanes and safeguarded its colonies, but the USG became the lifeblood of civilian exploration and commerce. By the 2440s, mankind's reach extended to the icy moons of the Solar System's gas giants. It was there, among the shallow craters and frigid plains, that the Concordian's Extraction Corporation unveiled a mining breakthrough that would redefine the human race's relations with the stars: planet cracking. This colossal process, capable of tearing open the very crust of a world to strip its resources, promised to feed humanity's insatiable hunger for energy and materials. For a time, it seemed as if the stars themselves had finally surrendered their bounty. The planet-cracking boom of the 25th century had given humanity a much-needed reprieve, but the past was not so easily buried. EarthGov, heir to the fractured legacy of the Sovereign Colonies, quietly shifted through what scraps of classified data had survived the purges of Scenario 5. Among these fragments were records of the old regime's experiments with the alien markers. Records that hinted at a peculiar artifact, Marker 3A, hidden somewhere within the long-restricted Aegis system. For decades, its exact location eluded them. Patrols were sparse, and the Aegis system remained little more than a name on sealed charts. That changed in 2508, when the Concordians Extraction Corporation, operating far beyond the bounds of legality, sank its drills into Aegis 7. In the dark rock beneath the planet's surface, they unearthed a long-lost relic, a discovery that would reignite the horrors thought buried for centuries. The rediscovery of Marker 3A in 2508 set in motion a grim repetition of history. Just as the Sovereign Colonies had once gambled everything on alien artifacts, EarthGov now followed the same perilous path. When news of the USG Ishimura's find reached their ears, the government moved quickly, dispatching the warship USM Valor to the Aegis system. Its mission was simple: aid the Clover operative, Kendra Daniels, in securing the marker at any cost. The mission failed, the Valor was lost, Daniels was killed, and the marker remained beyond their grasp. But EarthGov's ambitions did not die there. From the wreckage of Aegis 7, they secured the lone surviving engineer, Isaac Clarke, a man irreversibly scarred by the marker's influence. In the labyrinth of the damaged mind, EarthGov found something invaluable, the means to recreate the alien design. From Clarke's fractured memories, they forged new red markers, scattering them across the colonies for controlled study. Crown jewel of these was Site 12 marker, structured on Titan Station under the shadow of Project Telmir, a monument not to progress, but to the dangerous allure of repeating the mistakes of the past. The Titan Station disaster 2511, EarthGov's catastrophic failure under Project Telmir, sent shockwaves through the very core of the regime. Infrastructure buckled under the weight of political fallout, and the once unshakable authority of EarthGov began to erode. In the years that followed, the storm only grew darker. From the shadows, the followers of Unitology redoubled their efforts to undermine the government's military power and corrode its influence toward the public. Chief among them was the Circle, a ruthless sect of Unitology extremists who saw EarthGov's marker experiment as heresy of the highest order. At their head stood Jacob Arthur Danick, a man equal parts prophet and zealot, whose campaign would turn colony's dark world sound and the void itself into a battlefield. To the Unitologist, EarthGov's experiments with the markers were nothing less than blasphemy, an affront to the very path they believed would lead humanity to salvation. But 2514, with the specter of extinction looming ever closer, the Circle shifted from rhetoric to action. Their strikes were swift and merciless, targeting EarthGov's marker research sites across the colonies. One by one, worlds went silent. In just 16 days, at least 5 colonies, including the remote settlement of Uxar, fell dark, their final transmissions ending in chaos and static. EarthGov, unwilling or unable to contain the truth, downplayed the crisis even as fear spread through the populated systems. The Circle's next target would bring the war to humanity's doorstep, new horizons on Luna itself. In the wake of the Circle's devastating attacks, the fractures within EarthGov became impossible to ignore. The veneer of control was crumbling, and the once ironclad loyalty to the colonies was giving way to defiance. Walls in even the most secure and loyal settlements, worlds that lay within sight of Earth itself, were scrawled with anti-EarthGov slogans. Graffiti a silent chorus of discontent. Though the regime still commanded the alliance with the majority of planets and stations, including Earth, the shift in public sentiment was unmistakable. The people's faith had eroded, replaced by suspicion, resentment, and a dangerous willingness to imagine a future without EarthGov. For the first time in centuries, the government's greatest threat was not just an external enemy. It was the will of its own citizens.